gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
What is going on, CaneSport, and good morning to you all. It is Friday, March 29th, and I would like to thank everyone for joining us on Good Morning CaneSport. Today, I'm joined by Stephen Wagner and Matt Shodell as we break down the news of the day. We have plenty for you guys this morning. Yesterday, we had some great news in the basketball world. I know Coach L is happy this morning. Nigel Pack is back in the fold, and he's returning to Miami for one final year, his senior year. A lot of question after the end of last season whether he was going to go pro or return to the Hurricanes. We found out yesterday morning that he's coming back to Coral Gables. Matt, what are your thoughts on Nigel Pack being back in the fold in Coral Gables?
I guess it's good. I don't know. Do people care about basketball out there? I don't know. But I guess if you care about basketball, if Nigel Pack is shooting a higher percentage than he did this past year. I mean, right now he's on a downward trajectory, right? Because 2 years ago, he was hitting, I don't know, almost 40% of threes, I think, and like 44% from the field. And now he's like 30-something percent. Like he shot higher percent of threes, I want to say 2 years ago, than he did just from the field this past year. So like if he's better, if he's a 2 year ago Nigel Pack, yeah, great, you know. But I think he needs to not play point guard. I really do. He's just a better off guard to me. So hopefully Miami can go out and find a true point guard because this is going to be a strange transfer portal season next year. I'm not even sure Keyshawn George comes back at this point. You know, Nortet Omier, I don't know that he has anything left to prove in the college level that he can't do in the pros. Like if he wants to play professional basketball, I don't know that he can do anything different than average a double-double on a bad team and shoot pretty darn well and show good inside moves at the next level. So I don't know if he's back either. And Wooga Poplar, I think fans don't even want him to come back. You know, he was supposed to be a first-round draft pick, and he loses his mind in big games. I don't know that changes all of a sudden. It's like the yips in baseball. I mean, you put Wooga in a big game. Do you really want him shooting a lot of shots? At this point, I would say no. So I don't know if they can get him on a good NIL deal that's not killing the program. Then yeah, great, bring him back. But let him compete. But Miami needs to have a better bench. They need to have better starters. I'd like to say they need to have better coaching, but I know Jim Larranaga is a really good coach. But they didn't look like a well-coached team this year. They didn't pass the ball. They didn't play defense. They just looked like a poorly coached team, and Jim blamed that on the injuries. But the most games anyone missed out of the starters this year was 7, you know, which was Nigel Pack. You know, 3 games here, 4 games there, 5 games here. And, you know, and of course, Jim says, oh, we never were able to really practice fully. But other teams also had injuries. Basketball's a long season, so guys are banged up all the time. I don't know if that's a legitimate excuse. It just looked like a bad team that didn't want to play together and were playing selfish basketball. That's what they had. And so maybe it's a good thing that they're going to have a new, at least hopefully starting 3 maybe from the portal this coming year. That would be my guess right now. And we'll see where it goes. I don't think people still wanted me to talk about basketball, so I'm going to stop right there.
Well, Matt, thanks for that spiel about Nigel Pack and him coming back. But Miami did add another guy in the transfer portal in Virginia Tech center Lynn Kidd yesterday as well, bringing some much-needed size to that Miami Hurricanes rotation. So going to be interesting to see what other guys they go after in the portal and bring to the program. Like you mentioned, Miami does need a point guard, and I do have to agree with you. I think Nigel Pack is better off as a shooting guard. And I do think they need much needed help off that bench. We saw last year one of the worst benches in the country production-wise. So definitely some more talent on that bench, and they got it big. So we'll see how things unfold for the remainder of the transfer portal and see which other guys come to Miami. But let's talk about a little bit of football. That's why everybody's here this morning. I had a chance to speak with Coach Mario Cristobal yesterday, who said a few interesting things, but I kind of want to touch base on what he said about Jacoby George and, Jacoby George speaking with the media for the first time as well yesterday. We all know in that Rutgers game, he had, those 3 boneheaded personal fouls, and that was kind of the first thing that was brought up yesterday to Mario. They asked him, hey, did you have any thoughts about kicking him off the team or anything like that, which I thought was an interesting question. He had some good things to say. So just what were your guys' thoughts on Mario talking about Jacoby George and saying, he's progressed pretty well this spring?
Well, first off, you have to have some serious huevos if you're going to start off a press conference by asking Mario Cristobal that question. Because as we all know, Mario Cristobal is completely open and receptive and truly enjoys answering tough questions like that. Like, hey, did you consider kicking one of your players off the team because he got some personal fouls? I was just more surprised that someone actually had the balls to ask that question to begin with.
I guess, I don't know if you're having huevos rancheros for breakfast or whatever, but like
I am. In fact, it's a traditional Mexican dish. It is excellent in San Antonio. It is better than anywhere in the world in San Antonio.
Great. So yeah, look, I mean, the best way to start a press conference with Mario is probably not to say, did you want to kick your player off the team? I was a little surprised Mario answered it, quite honestly. I'm not going to say who asked the question, but it wasn't us. Gary and I were talking about, what we thought Jacoby would be asked about. And Gary's like, we're not going to ask him about his legal problems. Like, let's just keep it nice, That was when we were talking to Jacoby. And we didn't even think about, asking Mario about Jacoby getting kicked off the team. But, Mario, look, I don't want to say Mario's not always forthcoming with his answers, but everybody pretty much knows when it comes to injuries, like whatever Mario says is almost always going to be incorrect or factually just not true because he doesn't want to talk about injuries. But when it comes to something like this and culture on the team, I think Mario is genuinely forthcoming. And I think he really was. Like, this is one of those instances where you saw a head coach, and it's very rare for any head coach, not just Mario, to be very sincere about a player making mistakes and how a head coach responds to those mistakes. Very rare to see an honest answer. And I think actually the directness of the question and the shortness of the question sort of caught Mario off guard and helped the media get this true answer, which was, yeah, basically I almost kicked him off the team. But then you have to think, okay, my job as a coach is not just, okay, the guy made several mistakes and that's it, I'm done with him. It's as a college football coach, it's also to think about the person, because we know Jacoby George is a very talented player. As a person, how do you help Jacoby? And he said, they've invested a lot of time in Jacoby and they can see that he maybe can turn the corner. But I mean, this is a case where another problem or two and he'll be on the bench and then be gone. He's on very thin ice. I think Jacoby realized that when he talked to us yesterday as well. And it's unfortunate because he's one of the offense's top playmakers. And to know a guy like that was mentally fragile last year, might still be mentally fragile because you have to prove it, and we haven't seen it yet, obviously, is a little unsettling.
Yeah, no, yesterday I was caught by surprise. That first question just being thrown out there, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm curious to see what Mario responds. But like you mentioned, I feel like him being caught by surprise too kind of helped his answer. And then speaking with Jacoby George, he kind of got his answer about everything too. So it was pretty interesting yesterday, talking to him, talking to Isaiah Horton and the new guy, Savion Riley, about a bunch of stuff. So make sure to check out those updates as well. And, a lot of good things we've been seeing from practice. And, sometimes I wish we could watch the full practice, but hey, not up to us. It's up to those guys down at Cold Gables that decide all that. But, so far, through the first 8 practices or 9 practices, I like what I saw. You guys know I'm Mr. Go Lucky. I think Miami's going undefeated and win the national championship after watching them for 5 periods. But hey, that's just me. I don't know what other people are thinking. But we're gonna move on to some recruiting before it gets too late this morning and Matt has to go back into his beautiful slumber. A few guys on campus yesterday. Steven Cortez Mills returned for the 2nd time this week and the 3rd time this month. What are your overall thoughts about seeing him in Miami again and where the Hurricanes stand?
Okay, so Cortez said that right now he feels like everyone's dead even for him. But using common sense here, if one player has visited a school 4 times in the first 3 months of the year, and one of those months, keep in mind, was a dead period, and he's now attended 3 practices in 3 weeks and 2 practices in the same week, would you feel good about Miami's chances? I sure as hell would. I think this is kind of just a no-brainer for everyone. I think you just put together the context clues and frankly use a little bit of common sense. Miami is in a really good position here. I love the job that Miami is doing. I'm reading the tea leaves on this one. Miami's doing a really freaking good job right now. He's been incredibly complimentary of Miami. He's been hesitant to name one school that's trending in the right direction, but man, how can you not say that Miami is in a great spot right now? He already has his official visit locked in. He's also going to take OBs to Clemson, Nebraska, and Florida. But Miami is recruiting him harder than any of those other schools. Kevin Beard has done a really, really good job. And he's also been really encouraged by the progress that he's seen Miami's receivers make in practices this year. Because remember, he went to practices last year too. But now that he's getting to practices this year, he's able to see the jump that they're taking from last year this year. And, I asked him which guys are standing out to you. He said JoJo Trader, Xavier Restrepo, and Jacoby George. And part of that is also Cam Ward, which, obviously, well, we're thinking Cam Ward's probably not going to be here next year. But right. Miami's also emphasized their quarterback depth and the way that they've recruited the quarterback position. Luke Nickel in the 2025 class, top 200 player. I think he's like top 150-ish or something like that in the On3 rankings. Judd Anderson in 2024 finished the year as a 4-star top 300 player. Then obviously you've got Emory Williams, who he at the very least has starting experience, and Ja'Cory Brown, who knows what the future holds for Ja'Cory, but that's also a guy who has starting experience. So the quarterback room right now definitely has depth, and they've had depth that I don't think they've had in a little while. Like, the roster is in good shape. And I think a guy like Cortez Mills sees that. He sees that Miami as a whole is in a pretty good place right now. He sees that they're recruiting the receiver position well. Receivers are being developed. The quarterback recruiting looks much, much healthier than it's looked in a while. They have real depth at the quarterback position. It's looking like they're going to be able to continue bringing guys in at the quarterback position in the future. I mean, from the way that I'm reading it, I don't see that there's anything not to like here. I really like the position that Miami is in.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you on that. Cortez, like you mentioned, been down there a handful of times this spring, more than any other school. And he's right in the Hurricanes' backyard out of Homestead. I believe caught over 1,500 yards. Last year, has been productive all throughout his high school career. And, I think he's going to have another really, really big, year this upcoming fall. And I just love where Miami stands with him. Like you said, Kevin Beard has built that great relationship with him and has got him on campus a few times. And, it's hard not to, think Miami's up there with a lot of other schools with Cortez Mills. But sticking on, 2025 guys, we have a guy coming off the board tomorrow in TJ Alford out of Vero Beach. Been a lot of talk about, where he's going to go. He's taken a lot of visits this last week. Recently was at Tennessee, was at Florida State on Thursday, and now he's going to make a decision tomorrow on March 30th, which is Saturday. A lot of interest there. A guy that Miami's after, top 100 linebacker from Miami, but a lot of people see him, going elsewhere. Steven, we've been all over this. Just what are your final thoughts about TJ Alford heading in this commitment tomorrow?
Yeah, right now, I do probably feel the best about Ohio State right now. And that's what I want to emphasize right now, because regardless of where he commits to Saturday, it is not going to matter at all to Miami. That is not going to change anything. And I guarantee you it's not going to change the way that Ohio State will recruit him either, because Ohio State knows that this is going to have to be a battle to the end. Ohio State and Miami has stolen a few guys from Ohio State in recent years. And, Ohio State has stolen a few guys from Miami. So these are two staffs that are kind of familiar with each other as far as recruiting battles go. I don't think this is going to be over for a while. I think that whichever school he commits to, the other school is still going to have a good chance to flip him. And I do think that there is going to be a good chance that he could end up a Hurricane in the end, even if he does commit to Ohio State at first. And if he commits to Ohio State, if he commits to Miami, then if I was a Hurricanes fan, I would be a little bit weary of Ohio State, and I'd be a little bit nervous there, just because of how neck and neck this recruiting battle has been for so long. Because there really are possibilities that he goes to either, or there really is a possibility he could go to either school. He really likes Jim Laurinaitis and Ryan Day up there at Ohio State, but he also really likes Mario Cristobal and Derek Nicholson, and his dad's a Canes fan, and he's from Miami. So I really could see this ultimately going either way in the end. Although right now, I think I feel the best about Ohio State.
Yeah, kind of touching on that subject with his dad, being from Miami, living in Miami, being a Canes fan, I spoke with him earlier this week and he said, hey, my dad's pushing for Miami, but at the end of the day, he told me, hey, this is your decision. This is, what you're going to be doing for the next 3 to 4 years. I'm not going to be the one waking up at 5 a.m. going to, practices and things like that. So, yeah, he's thinking, hey, maybe I can stay or go back to Miami. My dad can come to the practice every single day. I can be around my family, but there's also other opportunities out there. So definitely going to be one to watch on Saturday. And, also on Coral Gables, going to be a lot of talented guys coming in. One being Aiden Anding out of Ruston in Louisiana. He's a guy that's kind of under the radar, but Miami's very, very high on. Really reminds me of Dylan Day, the safety / nickel that they signed in the 2024 class. Similar size, similar build, similar recruitment as well, kind of under the radar, but has shown he can produce at a high level against some good competition in Louisiana. He's going to be one of the many guys on campus this weekend. So make sure to stay tuned as we cover those guys, keep you guys updated throughout as well. But that is all that we have for this morning. Good morning, CaneSport. I hope you guys all enjoyed watching myself, Mr. Wags, and Matt Shodell rant to you this beautiful Friday morning. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And for those two guys, I'm Izubee Charles. Thank you for watching and have a great Friday.